SLT Fibre and experience the power of fibre technology. Sri Lanka's only super fast internet connection. SLT Fibre. Call 1212 now.
Tonight, North will rise. Gotabaya Rajapaksa promises an exponential development in the northern region with more private sector investments. All by yourself, Sajid Premadasa says his youth pledge will allow youngsters achieve their goals without seeking support from men in power. Holistic approach needed. Governor admits to constraints in access to finance for SME sectors.
These include high interest rates and the emphasis on collateral by lending institutions.
All this and much more coming up on First at 9, this Monday, the 20th October 2019.
මුහුණ සති කීපයකට කලින් Fair and Lovely men ගෑවට පස්සේ මාක්ස් අඩු වෙලා fairness වැඩි වෙලා.
මාක්ස් අඩු කරලා ඔයාගේ fairness standard එක වැඩි කරගන්න. Fair and Lovely men anti marks cream.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Well, the rescue mission to save the 2-year-old toddler in India who fell into a borewell continues. He had initially fallen into a depth of 30 meters, but since has fallen into a 180-meter depth. We'll bring you the development on that story, but we begin with campaigning for the presidential election here in Sri Lanka. Presidential contender of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, pledges to develop the northern region of Sri Lanka, attract the private sector to invest in the north, make quality education accessible to all in the areas of the north, and to provide employment training opportunities for young people there. The SLPP presidential hopeful expressed these views at an election campaign rally in Jaffna today. And Gotabaya Rajapaksa also attended several other election campaigning rallies in support of his candidacy.
An election campaign rally in support of the presidential candidate of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Gotabaya Rajapaksa was held in Kadruwela yesterday.
I would like to thank the leadership and every other member of the SLFP, including President Maithripala Sirisena, for their decision to support me. The SLFP would never oppose my election manifesto. We must engage in a political journey that is based on principles. I have promised to take care of members of the SLFP, so please have faith in me.
Meanwhile, SLPP's first election campaign rally for the day was held in Vaunia today.
We weren't the ones who started a war, but we were the ones who finished it. I would like to say to the Tamil community in this area that certain people are attempting to drag you into the past and make you live there. What I present to you is a way to make your lives better, developing these areas, provide job opportunities for the youth, and to provide access to quality education.
ගුණාත්මක අධ්‍යාපනයක් ලබා ගන්නට පුළුවන් ක්‍රමවේදයක් මම ඉදිරිපත් කරලා තිබෙනවා. ඔබේ යුතුයකම උදේ පාන්දර ගිහිල්ලා
Do ensure that you commit to your duty of voting for presidential candidate of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Gotabaya Rajapaksa to appoint him the country's president by the 17th.
Presidential hopeful Gotabaya Rajapaksa later attended a rally in Jaffna today.
This area was a military camp prior to 2005, but later I managed to release about 90% of the land to its original owners. I had also made plans with MP Douglas Devananda regarding other areas. I agreed to allow the owners to farm in these lands until some of the land were officially released. We couldn't continue with our work after we lost power. After we achieved peace in the country, I was able to convince several private companies to invest in the areas of Kilinochchi and Vaunia. They were, however, faced with difficulties such as not having a trained workforce. I pledge to encourage private companies to invest in these areas.
මේ ප්‍රදේශවල ඇවිල්ලා ආයෝජනය කරන්න.
මේ පළාතේ සංවර්ධනයට හා ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී අයිතිය
We have done everything to ensure democratic rights and development in this area. The TNA took the responsibility of the people in the north, but instead of finding solutions to issues faced by the people, they protected the United National Party and supported all of their wrong decisions in Parliament. It was not Vigneswaran or the TNA who faced difficulties, but it was the people who faced challenges as a result. The government of the United National Party, as well as the TNA and the JVP, didn't just fail to contribute to the development in the north, but also they failed in the south. They failed to provide job opportunities to the youth of the north. We must avail state sector employment opportunities to youth of the northern province.
අපි අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම රාජ්‍ය සේවයට උතුරේ තරුණයෝ බඳවා ගැනීම කළ යුතුව තියෙනවායි කියලායි මම විශ්වාස කරන්නේ.
Presidential contender of the New Democratic Front, Minister Sajid Premadasa, promises to set the stage for young people to thrive towards excellence without having to seek the support of any man in power. Premadasa's remarks came at the launch of his youth pledge in Colombo today.
Yet another campaign rally for the New Democratic Front presidential candidate Minister Sajid Premadasa under the theme Together Ahead was worked off in Chilao last night.
Our objective is to increase the life expectancy of the people of Sri Lanka. Give me the strength to become the president of this country on the 16th, and I will ensure that access to clean drinking water a priority under our government. My friends, do not betray the freedom we have won.
Minister Sajid Premadasa also attended a rally organised in Mawatagama, Kurunegala yesterday.
We will always welcome foreign direct investments into the country, through which we will create the luxury for youth to engage in their jobs from wherever they are, whether they are in cities or villages. Do not have any fear. It is an auspicious time for me, and on the 16th, an era for the general public will dawn.
Meanwhile, Minister Premadasa unveiled his youth pledge on the theme Youth Transformation at the Sugatadasa Indoor Stadium in Colombo today.
You and I are in the right side. Sajid Premadasa is the only leader who can be handed the responsibility of our lives. Therefore, you must convey this message to the youth. He is just 52 years old. We have a golden opportunity today to elect a young leader as the country's next president. I have no intention of becoming a president who feeds himself and looks after his welfare from the money of the taxpayers. I pledge that I will not bring down any sort of bulletproof vehicles for my personal usage. We will immediately change the culture where new vehicles are imported in large numbers when the government changes. I pledge to create an environment where youth do not have to seek the support and recommendations of the powerful, wealthy, and even the politicians to thrive.
තරුණ ප්‍රඥප්තිය එළිදැක්වීමේ අවස්ථාවයි.
Presidential candidate of the National People's Power, Anurakkumara Dissanayake, says that small and medium-scale entrepreneurship will be highly encouraged if he is elected the President of Sri Lanka. The presidential hopeful expressed these views at the Youth Convention of the National People's Power yesterday.
The youth convention of the JVP-led National People's Power was held in Colombo yesterday under the patronage of the coalition's presidential candidate Anurakkumara Dissanayake.
Our parliament is similar to an elder's home. Some are aged 84, 80, 79 or even 78. Their policies are from the past. When I ask questions in parliament, they respond to different matters except to what I asked. And when I stand up to raise my question again, Speaker Karu Jayasuriya asks me not to. He even makes a slight hand gesture and allows the older ones to speak. Our election manifesto clearly states that no one aged 70 or above can contest in any of the elections. We are also going to give emphasis on small and medium entrepreneurship with very clear guidelines.
සුළුවා මධ්‍යපරමණ ව්‍යවසායක උන්මාදයක් ලංකාවේ නිර්මාණය කරන්න අපි සූදානම්.
Executive Director of PAFRL Rohana Hettiarachchi says that acts of violence are less in this year's run-up to the presidential polls in relation to relative terms to previous presidential polls. Speaking at a media briefing in Colombo today, Hettiarachchi said that 14 election-related violations have been reported so far.
Acts of violence have reduced during the current campaign ahead of the presidential election compared with the previous time. There are reports of only 14 incidents and 10 persons were hospitalized. But the misuse of state funds and state authorities very much the same as the previous election.
Meanwhile, the organisation dubbed Truth Seekers today lodged 2 complaints with the Election Commission regarding violations of election laws. Meanwhile, a group of residents from the railway housing complex in Maligawatha filed a complaint with the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka today, demanding to restore their voting rights. According to the group of residents, names of about 100 people from the complex were not included in the voter registration form.
The Meteorology Department says that the atmospheric disturbance from the southwest Bay of Bengal to the south of Sri Lanka is likely to move into the western sea area of Sri Lanka. Under the influence of this disturbance, heavy falls of about 150 millimeters will continue over most parts of the island, particularly in the provinces of Uva, southern, western, northwestern, central, Sabaragamuwa and eastern areas.
Following heavy rain over the past few days, many areas in the Puttalam district, including Ratmalyaya and Tilladiya, were seen inundated. 4 spill gates of the Thabova reservoir were also opened today. Meanwhile, fishermen were refrained from venturing into the sea in the coastal areas of Gaul and Puttalam, owing to rough seas and strong winds. AdaDerana reporter on the ground said that Ellavaya Road, which was closed after the landslip, remains shut and clearing of the road is still underway. Meanwhile, the Disaster Management Centre says that heavy rainfall will continue for the next few days as well.
As per the meteorological department, they are expecting more rain today also. The rain could be expected in many areas of Sri Lanka, especially low pressure is moving towards the country, and the sea area has also been warned from Potuville to Puttalam via Hambantota, Colombo, especially the part of eastern sea area as well as the southern and the western sea area will be affected with strong wind, more than 70 to 80 kilometers per hour. The rain has recorded in many areas, especially the Mullaitivu district, more than 100 millimeters rain being reported. We have got some information about the heavy rain in Kurunegala district, some areas of Badulla and the western area, and a lot of areas been pouring with the rain. So people need to be very vigilant with the signs of the landslide. If any signs been observed, they need to move from these locations temporarily.
Access to finance is still a constraint, the central bank governor admits. We'll bring you the details after this break. Welcome back. Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, admitted to the constraints faced by local small and medium enterprises with access to finance, including the challenges faced by these enterprises with high interest rates and collateral requirement. The governor hence called for a holistic approach and strong, robust institutional structure to create an environment that allows the country's credit supplement, or rather credit supplementation initiatives, to be more effective. Dr. Kumaraswamy was speaking at the inaugural ceremony of the 32nd Annual Conference of the Asian Credit Supplementations Institutions Confederation today.
The 32nd Annual Conference of the Asian Credit Supplementation Institutions Confederation commenced under the patronage of Central Bank Governor Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy. Themed as Credit Supplementation Towards Sustainable Development, the conference is attended by 110 participants, including 50 foreign delegates.
access to finance plays an integral role in SME development, and the Central Bank of Sri Lanka is primarily entrusted with the responsibility of facilitating, supporting, and strengthening the mechanisms for easy and affordable access to finance for SMEs. However, there are several constraints faced by SMEs with regard to access to finance. These include high interest rates and the emphasis on collateral by lending institutions. Further, the contribution of SME financing by formal financial institutions is limited. Hence, the private informal money lenders play a key role in SME financing, though at exorbitant interest rates. While credit supplementation initiatives are extremely important, I think all of you will agree that their impact can only be maximized if the overall environment for SME development is conducive. And here I think it's important to have a holistic approach, and there are probably 4 areas where there has to be effective intervention. 1 is training, 2 is access to inputs and technology, 3 is access to finance, and here clearly credit enhancement is very important, and finally marketing. In my view, the most intractable problem is marketing. If the marketing channels are cleared, even access to finance and everything else becomes much, much easier. Often, certainly in Sri Lanka, we've had numerous SME development programs, but we have tended to focus on the production function and not paid enough attention to marketing, to linking up MSMEs and SMEs to supply chains. And if you resolve that problem, one finds that the other issues become a lot easier. The second more general point to make relates to the institutional architecture for supporting SME development. Speaking from our own experience in Sri Lanka, we have a plethora of institutions trying to assist in SME development. However, there is a challenge in terms of coordination and cooperation. So I think it's important to rationalize the institutional structure to support SME development and to ensure there is strong cooperation and coordination across the institutions which are working in these 2 sectors.
Taking you to the Colombo Stock Exchange, equities closed at a 12-week high today, led by financial services and telecom companies. The all-share price index edged up 0.18% to 5,946.08, while the S&P also gained for an 8th straight session. Foreign investors were net sellers of riskier assets for a 4th time in 7 sessions as they sold a net 194.9 million rupees worth of shares, extending the year-to-date net foreign selling to 4.16 billion rupees of equities. Here's a brief report on how markets performed during the day.
In the bond market, the bond yield curve was broadly stagnant ahead of tomorrow's bond auction. Activity levels were rather low today with less transactions. In the equity market, we had positive market sentiment today for the 8th consecutive day as retail interest dominated activity during the day. With retailers dominating trading activity, the popular segment of shares were the mid-cap counters. We also saw activity being centered around the construction and building material related counters as well.
In the currency market, the Sri Lankan rupee ended 0.06% weaker at 181 rupees and 35 to 60 cents on imported dollar demand against the US dollar, compared with Friday's close of 181.25 to 45 cents. Here's a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. The rescue missions of the Indian toddler who fell into a well continue. We'll bring you details after this break. And before we wrap up tonight's news, we have some good news. The UK Theatre Awards 2019, which celebrate achievement in regional theatre, took place at London's Guildhall yesterday. The ceremony saw Sheffield theatres take home the most awards, winning in all of the 5 categories it was nominated. The Sri Lankan Hiran Amarasekara was also among the winners as he swept the award for Best Performance in a Play for Life of Pi. And that wraps up tonight's edition of First at 9 on AdaDerana 24. Thank you for joining us. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.